Welcome to the Mindful Muscle Podcast. My name is Paul Klingon, and I am your host. I left a career at Amazon in 2018 to help people live healthier lives. Mindful Muscle is the balance between pushing harder to hit your fitness goals while also being able to slow down. We'll talk all things training, nutrition, and recovery, while also highlighting the importance of mindfulness, slowing down, and taking care of mental health and performance. You'll hear from doctors, authors, athletes, coaches, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in the health and wellness space. And you'll hear from me as an athlete, trainer, nutrition, and personal performance coach as I share my thoughts and experiences that are helping my clients and myself get better each and every day. What's up, everybody? Hope you're having an awesome day. I personally am wrapping up quite the sports week. We watched the national championship, Gonzaga and Butler, on Monday. That was kind of not a good game, but go Zags, as someone who lives in Washington. Then Wednesday, I went and caught the Mariners game, first Mariners game in over a year. Then played a little golf yesterday. Now we're watching the Masters. It really is the best time for sports. And we got someone who is related to sports coming up on today's podcast, Don Jackson Blatner, DJ Blatner. Super excited to get into today's episode. But before I do, I want to talk about what I brought her in to this Mindful Muscle community for. She's going to be teaching a live cooking class and showing you how to make some of her best foods in the Mindful Muscle 8-week challenge community on May 10th. And so I'm super excited to be able to have that as something that's part of the program. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that 8-week challenge really quick. It launches literally in a week. So if you were listening to this before April 19th, go to downdogathletics.com, check it out, and see if it's something that works for you. But what you're going to get with it is going to be all of my best workout programs on the Down Dog Athletics training app. So whether you're at home, you need a bodyweight program, or you got some equipment, maybe you got dumbbells, maybe you got kettlebells, I'm going to be able to set you something up that is intelligently designed to help you progress, get stronger, get leaner, more energetic. Everything is going to sync within that app, so you'll be able to see your steps. If you've got a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, you'll be able to see your calories that you're having. You'll be able to see your sleep. You'll be able to track all your progress, measurements, photos, a ton of really cool tech and data that's included with it. You're going to get nutrition coaching, and you're going to get 6 different recipe books. So whether you are low carb, vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, you want some high protein recipes, we got you. Literally over 200 recipes with shopping lists, meal plans, boom, dialed in. We're going to do a book club. We're going to go over Turning Pro. If you listen to the podcast, I think 2 podcasts ago, we'll dive into that book and work on some mindset things as we go through that. And they're going to have access to the Mindful Muscle community, all within a private support group. So you're going to have everyone who's done the challenge in the past, everyone who's doing the challenge together. And we'll be able to jam on weekly group coaching calls. Q&A, I'll coach you through every single thing related to the challenge, whether that's nutrition, training, mindfulness, get into the metabolism, we'll get into the core, we'll dive into some pretty cool topics, and you'll learn and get a lot of education. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of prizes. We got a $250 Lululemon gift card, 3 months of coaching. Shout out to Stacy. She won that for winning the challenge last time. And then we're going to have Down Dog Athletic swag again. So you'll be able to get all that with the challenge. And then, of course, a live cooking class with DJ Blatner. So super excited. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into just who DJ Blatner is. And if you have followed her on social media, or maybe you've read some of her books, you'll recognize her. She is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and a certified specialist in sports dietetics. So I was really excited to have her come on and get her perspective from an exercise athletic background. She's the author of 2 books, Flexitarian Diet, ranked a top plant-based diet in the U.S. and World Report, and then her newest book, The Superfood Swap. I'm actually going to give away a copy of this. I've bought a copy. I'm going to give away one to anyone who tags or shares this podcast, so I know that you're listening. I'll give one away. I'll send it to you, and you'll have the Superfood Swap. It's going to be sick. She recently started and won the hit prime time reality TV show on ABC called My Diet is Better Than Yours. And she was the dietitian, the head dietitian for the Chicago Cubs for 10 years. And yes, she has a World Series ring. So she brings a lot to the table, and I'm super excited to have her on. So here we go. We'll dive right into today's episode. This makes a lot of sense. So for people who are new to you, talk about your philosophy being one, the flexitarian diet, plant-based, and then how you make that match you, because not everyone is just a carbon copy of each themselves. And then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, biodiversity, individualism of your plan, absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, bottom line is I created the flexitarian diet because I was a vegetarian who would eat meat. So when people were like, hey, you know what, how do you eat? I'm like, I'm a vegetarian. secretly whipping myself inside of like, why am I saying that? Because I know I'm such a bad vegetarian. I'm eating meat, on the side. And then I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like, why not be proud of this? Why not feel like I am a vegetarian with flexibility? So I looked up in 2003. I was like, this would be, you put those two words together, flexible plus vegetarian, flexitarian. And 2003, it was actually nominated in like the American Dialect Society as a word or something. I don't know. It was something. And I was like, it's a word? And so then a couple years went by and I kept looking on Amazon to buy the book. I was like, I can't wait to buy a flexitarian diet. Like, this is so cool. And year after year, I was like, nobody's writing this diet. I was like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to be me. This is supposed to be me. So I figured this out at probably like a random, like 1 a.m. And I was like, boom, I just like woke up. I went to my computer. I typed a paragraph up about this book. I sent it to an agent, and I knew this agent because how you can know any agent is you can look in a lot of people's books and they always think they're agent. So I cold called this random agent via an email of one paragraph. And I was like, this is the book of the century. Like, this is going to be huge. And she emailed me right back and was like, boom, you've got me as your agent. Let's go get a book deal. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was just some random, thing that I knew I wanted, but I didn't know it was supposed to be me to do it until this like random thought went through my mind. So that's the premise, is all just about being plant-based, but really having flexibility, because I am not anti-meat. In fact, flexibility sometimes looks a little more vegan in my life. It sometimes looks not that plant-based at all. So it really is, quite flexible. And then from there, I thought that wasn't the whole story about nutrition. I was like, yes, flexible plant-based seems to be right, but there is a bigger story that nobody is telling, and that's frustrating me. And that is really when it comes to all diets. So, keto, paleo, vegan, anything. They all have one thing in common. Everybody talks about what's different about them. They're like, oh, this is this way, and this one's different this way, and this one. I'm like, wait a second. They all work for some people because of the one truth that is universal throughout every one of these diets. And that one universal truth is there's no processed food in them. I wanted to write my second book about cutting out crap. That's all you have to do. You just have to cut out crap. And so I created an acronym to help people decide what's crap, what's not crap. So Superfood Swap was my second book.
Yeah, which we're super excited. That's actually something that I want to hook a listener up with. So I'll be buying another copy of that. And then anyone who's like, hey, this was great, I'll be like, hey, sweet, you get the book. Because that's something I was actually talking with the client about today, where he was like, yeah, we're going to the bar, we're going to watch, the Masters and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, like you can have sweet potato fries, or you can just make sweet potatoes, add a little bit of salt to them, and do it at home, right? And so what I feel like that's part of the premise of the superfood swap, but talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. So, building on being a flexible plant-based person, now it's like, okay, if you really had to say what's the healthiest way to eat, it's just don't eat so much processed food. Well, here's what I figured out, Paul. People don't know what processed food is. And this happened to me because I have my mom and my dad, and I'm always like, doing my little preaching every which way in the highway. And so they called me once and they say, yo, you'd be so proud of us. We got rid of all the processed food. And I was like, you did? Oh my gosh. I said, tell me how you did it. And they said, oh, we just started shopping at Whole Foods. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not about spending more money at a fancy store. And in fact, many of those healthy foods that people are eating that are gluten-free and this and that are uber processed. So I said, oh my gosh, this is, I got to really come up with an easy acronym that could work for my parents and my clients about how do you determine if something is too processed, really. And so CRAP, cutting the crap, is how you do this. And you look at the ingredient list on any food. That's where your eyes should always go. Not calories, not portion size, not fiber grams, not sodium, none of the numbers. You go right to the ingredients and you see if you can find CRAP. And that stands for chemicals you really have no idea what they are and you don't use them in your kitchen. R is refined sugar and flour, the white stuff. A is the artificial, color, flavor, all that artificial stuff, sweeteners. And then P is preservatives. And so if you see something like that, the CRAP in the ingredient list, that is ding, 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 a little symbol that should go off in your brain of like, wait a second, I think this could be a processed food. And the more of them you see in the list and the higher they are to the front position, the more likely it is you probably just leave that in the store, pick something else. That's probably a highly processed food. And there's lots of research now. It wasn't out when I wrote the Superfood Swap, but there is a lot of research now that just switching to less processed food, so not counting macros, not counting calories, not doing anything other than switching to the higher quality, best in class condiments and foods and ingredients, you get healthier. It just happens. And it's no surprise because that really is the key to healthy living, of cutting the crap.
Absolutely. I love that. And sometimes when I that is a more efficient way of what I used to say, where it was if it has grown in the earth or from something of the earth, or it had like eyes at some point, like it's probably good. Like Cheez-Its never had eyes. There's never a Cheez-It tree. But crap is much more and applicable and something that people can fall away from. I like what you said about principles, and it's everyone always wants to talk about this extreme or that extreme, and people they paint themselves into a corner, which when we were talking about Instagram is really interesting because someone will get a bunch of followers as the keto cookie or the paleo Paul, and then they're like, wow, I'm like stuck here, right? And so I feel like then you get people in these camps, and rather than saying like, here's how we're all different, how are we all the same? Food quality, energy balance, like those things, when you cut out the crap, that's really where people are going to make changes. And I was having this talk with a gal. She was like, hey, my friend just did intermittent fasting. Do you think that's what we should try? And I'm like, maybe. Everyone's super different. Everyone's super unique. And I want to table this thought for just for a second, but I like athletes are going to need something different than someone who's working at a corporate job. Someone who works in construction is going to need something different than someone who's a computer programmer. And so just knowing that we are all different and unique. Talk a little bit though about like identity and when people identify with their diet and feel almost like bad. You're talking about like feeling bad if you moved away from vegetarian, like, oh, I'm this evil moral person, as if carbs rob the bank or, you know, meat is out clubbing baby seals when we know that that's not true.
Okay, first of all, the descriptions as you speak are fantastic. This is what you are awesome at what you do. Yes, all of the above. Yes, yes, yes. It's interesting you say that. I've not really thought about like how critical it is to not, put baby in the corner because it really does put undue pressure and stress on you. When I'm working with clients, the thing that I always bring them back to is why are we doing this? We're doing this so that you can feel awesome, right? We want you to feel awesome. We want you to be able to, leap buildings in one single bound. Like we want you to have energy to show up to your life the biggest, the best, the brightest version of yourself. So does it make sense that through the process you would feel like bad about yourself because you're setting up all these wackadoodle rules that make you feel miserable? It's like,
Yeah.
no, the whole process to getting you to this, bright, bold, beautiful, energetic, fabulous space should also have that same energy behind it, right? So it's not like once you get there, all of a sudden your life gets glorious. All along the way of getting there, it needs to also be glorious. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that you got to be very careful about being so strict to the identity of your diet that it's causing you, anguish, because that's against what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. And to that point of energy, I'd love to get your thoughts and tips on how the two, sleep and diet, impact each other. So if someone's eating a certain way, how that's going to affect their sleep, because that's one of the biggest questions I get. Or I'll notice they're up till 10 working for Amazon. I'm like, hey, you got to get to sleep. They're like, I can't. And they're like, could I eat something different? And then you get the people who maybe are up all night, whether it's out partying or eating trash or whatever. And then the next day, because they're sleep deprived, now they're craving this. I'd love for you to dive into the relationship of the two.
They are so intertwined. It is chicken and egg situation. Which one comes first? They are just one and the same, right? So as you described it, oftentimes, people just come to me. I'm the registered dietitian nutritionist, fix my food. It's like, dude, I cannot fix your food when your sleep is out of whack because tired people make horrible food decisions. It's just the case. Tired people are seeking quick energy. Tired people are seeking quick energy. Where are they going to get quick energy? They're going to get it from abusing caffeine, not a little bit of caffeine, abusing caffeine. They're going to get it from starchy, carby, sugary things, because that's really where quick energy comes from. It's not good energy, but it is quick. And so that's what a tired person is going to do. So we've got to fix your sleep. And to do that, it really is just assessing, when are you stopping caffeine? First and foremost, like when you're stopping, what's the deal with alcohol? Caffeine and alcohol are two drugs we are so loose about. We are just like loose as can be. It's like, those are drugs, major drugs, and they're going to be part of your lifestyle if we can use them just like any drug in the right amount at the right time, right? So they're great when used in the right amount at the right time. So I will definitely right away look at caffeine. I'll look at meal timing. So is it no eating and then a huge meal so you're digesting your food and unable to go to bed? We'll look at all the environmental factors like blue lights and, how irritated are you reading like your boss's email before you're going to bed? No, you can't go to bed because of emotional reasons. So we have this whole idea of how to fall asleep. So it's not just like, boom, it's time for bed and just shove yourself in the bed and just force it. Also having the routine to try and get yourself into the groove of being able to fall asleep. So once somebody is able to sort of get their schedule right, usually it's much easier. Oh my gosh, so much easier to eat well because they're not like so tired.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I'd love for you to, if you could break down a little bit of just like cortisol and what's happening hormonally with the circadian rhythm, and people where it is 8 o'clock and they're just like stressed to the max, and then they're eating a bunch of food and then they try and go to sleep. And it's just like, there's other things that have to happen, to your point, with that wind down to get that body, get those lights out of there, because the brain is being like, yo, there's a tiger that's trying to eat us. We got the sun that's up. We're like super stressed. Now we're trying to digest food. Of course, you're not going to want to go to sleep.
Oh, it's beautifully put. The two systems, right? Fight or flight, rest and digest. If you are in fight or flight zone, which means exactly as you pointed out, bright lights. It's morning, time to be up, high cortisol, boom, boom, boom. Feeling stressed out because of emails or even watching toxic television, right? Is like gets you into amped up. You're in the wrong system. There is no possible way, if you are in fight or flight, that you can be in the opposite system, rest and digest. You cannot. So you need to turn on the rest and digest system by not eating food, letting your food digest, chill out, get it dark so that your body's like, oh, this isn't morning. My cortisol doesn't have to be high. I can chillax right now. Winding down to get into that right system. It's huge. You can't have both. So you've got to switch one on, switch one off. And there's many things that you can do to do that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts with having the phone charging not next to your bed? This is a debate I'll have with clients, and actually with my significant other as well, where I'm like, hey, get that phone out of here. She's like, no. I'm like, yes, you got to.
Oh, it's so huge. Okay, so I went on a morning walk this morning and just also said, to the person I was walking with, like, listen, I need an intervention myself, because it is so important. Even if you have discipline and you're like, I'm not using the phone right before bed, I'm really just using it as an alarm clock. No, it's still, you know what? Here's the deal. Bottom line is I still will wake up first thing in the morning and look at emails and Instagram. That's not how I want to start my day. So it's like, yes, I have discipline 9 out of 10 times, but why should I just get the darn thing out of there and set myself up for success, right? Like set my environment up to win. So my husband, he does not have the phone in. He has a regular old-fashioned alarm clock, and he is doing a great job, and he's a good role model for me, because that's really where it's at. It's you cannot go to bed with the phone. You cannot wake up with the phone, because why? What would I rather be doing first thing in the morning? Setting my intention for a magical day? Yes, that's what I'd rather be doing than reading about somebody's random stuff on my doom scrolling on Instagram. It's like, no, take charge of your freaking day and do that by keeping the phone out. So anyway, I got to take my own advice. I'm going to listen back to this podcast and listen to the passion in my voice of getting that phone the heck out.
Yeah, but hey, I think that's really cool when people like you, or just the people that see like, oh, you're a fitness person, nutritionist, and you're perfect, you're a god, you've never had a calorie in your life, or like whatever people think. It's like, no, we make these mistakes all the time. Like a couple weekends ago, I was watching a movie, had more wine than I meant to have, and I was like, you know what? Like, I sloughed on my diet this weekend. That's okay. That's the whole part of being human. So I actually appreciate you with the transparency, because I think that makes a big difference. Want to rewind just a little bit. One of the things you were talking about was like the craving for the quick energy, right? Right in the morning, when you're sleep impaired. Talk about a little bit of the difference between hunger and craving, how to identify that, and how to really navigate that. Because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm craving Cheetos, and is it I'm actually hungry, or am I craving something? And also, the more you feed that craving, the more it's probably going to grow, right?
Oh, it's yes. The more you eat it, the more you want it. Whether that's M&Ms or salad, I say it every day. It's how we're wired. It's like all of a sudden, it's just what you want. I just want salads. I'm telling you, I'm not forcing this. Like it's what my body is knowing. It's what I do. But if I get into a routine with M&Ms, my body is like M&M, M&M, M&M. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, the difference between cravings and hunger can be tricky. And a lot of times it's impossible if somebody doesn't have regular meal schedule, because it's hard to know, like, is this hunger? Is this craving? So when somebody is eating regularly, and for everybody, that could be a little bit different, right? So some people have their food pushed back a bit because they're doing more of a 12, 14, 16-hour fast, but they're still having meals, right? So it's not just like, oh, here's my eating window, I'm just going to start eating and grazing like a crazy animal. It's like, no, it still should be solid meals. And when somebody does that, blood sugar, it enables your brain to make good decisions. And so at that point, you can really start better determining, is this hunger, meaning I feel sort of empty in my stomach, I feel maybe a little bit irritated, irritable. I'm starting to think about real food. I'm starting to think about wanting to eat like a hard boiled egg or an apple or something like that. So I have an empty feeling. I might be a little irritable. And I'm starting to think about real food. Those are like hunger cues. The craving thing oftentimes is happening because we have a lot of stress going on, and in between clients, in between calls, and in this transition of like amped up adrenaline, boom, 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 boom. I don't know when the last time I ate. I'm just there. My body is at a crazy tempo. I don't have blood sugar to make good decisions in my brain. This is where cravings are likely to flare. And these are usually things that are more along the lines of like fast, quick energy, right? This is like, I'm not thinking about eating a hard boiled egg and an apple. I'm starting to think about like, what's the quickest thing I could shove in my mouth standing in the fridge right now? So that's usually a tip off it's a craving, but it can be hard at first. It really, that regular meal time, even though I think it's kind of a snooze topic that people are like, boring, it really is magic, because those regular meals are the blood sugar that gives your brain these great decision-making skills.
Yeah, and the body's very adaptive. It's going to adapt and start to follow that routine that you start to establish for it. And it's a little bit easier. I always tell people like be mindful of how you feel after you have X, or what is, leading up to the energy surge that you had in that really good workout. Like, be mindful of what you're having. I think that's a really good transition. You were talking about how people are just running around, go, 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 right? And you don't make good decisions when you're just running around going fast, fast, a million miles an hour. So I love your principle of, I think it's table plate chair, right?
Oh, baby.
And
Oh, baby.
just
I'm
how
never going to leave this podcast without trying to force that principle down everyone's throat. It's changed. It's been a game changer for me. It is one of my favorite things. It's the easiest thing to say. It's a hard thing to do.
yeah, it's
So
well, to your
table
point.
plate chair being like, whenever you eat, you need three things. You need a table, you need a plate, and you need a chair. Meaning, sit your butt down in the table and chew. I'm not saying eat by your computer while you're working. I'm not saying sit on the couch while TV is going and eating off of a TV tray or, like end table or whatever. I'm not saying be in the car and shove something down your throat. I'm not saying walk down the street and open up a protein bar. It is like even snacking. So I'm not saying grab a handful of the healthiest nuts in the world and snack on them. It's even that table plate chair. If you can get to that level of mindfulness, You become the boss and owner of your food decisions. And then what's cool about that is there is no shame and no guilt because you owned it like a boss. Make a decision, own it like a boss, enjoy it, move on. That's what we're missing. Like when we look at, how many people eat, is they have no thought before they eat. They shove it and then they bemoan themselves, right? Beat themselves up, shame and guilt. And when I say people, let's get this straight. I came up with this table plate chair because I was a suffering disaster of like fast tempo life, shoving things in, and so table plate chair saved me because I was in that rut. And, it's magic, simple magic.
It's simple, but to your point, it's hard. And it's usually the simple things where it's like, hey, drink more water. Hey, get more sleep. You're like, oh, it's easy. I can do that. But it's the hardest thing for people to do. And then people be like, oh, well, what do you think about like this specific meal timing with this, supplement? And it's like, are you sleeping? Well, then get some sleep. Like get the simple things done, which, got to touch on do simple better and just talk about that a little bit. That just principle. And then from there, I think it would be cool to dive into your work with the Cubs and
yeah, well, that's a perfect segue because so I am a CSSD, which stands for Certified Specialist in Sports Dietetics. So basically, I'm a sports nutritionist. For 10 years, I head up the Chicago Cubs as their head dietitian. And one of the reasons why I believe that job happened to me is really to get that phrase, do simple better. So Joe Madden was at the Cubs doing all sorts of stuff with the players. And that was something I heard him tell the players of like, you know what, listen, like you said, we don't need to be worrying about all these elevated skills. Like, let's just do the simple stuff better than everybody else. And I was like, oh my gosh, light bulb moment. This is what I've always practiced. It's always been, if you get those base things done, guess what? Your hormones go into check without doing anything fancy. Your energy comes into check without doing anything fancy. Your weight comes into check without doing anything fancy. It's the boring consistency of those basics, doing simple better that really does. I mean, it delivers. It delivers. Doing simple better delivers.
So if someone's writing down in a journal right now and they're like, all right, do simple better. What are those 5 simple things to do better today?
Yeah, I love it. So it really is meals on schedule and meals being balanced meals. And what I say is balance is it's mentally satisfying and physically nourishing yourself, not one or the other. Oh my gosh. This is like the biggest thing. This is somehow got to be my next book thing, right? Because if people are on one side or the other on this, they're like, either it's a mentally satisfying fun food. I'm like, oh my God, I hate when people call stuff fun food. Anyway, fun food, or this is the most nourishing meal that my cells could ever get delivered to them. And it's like, how come we cannot have both? Like we can have both things. We can have food that is mentally satisfying and physically just like rock star optimizing, right? So, okay, fine. So I got a tantrum on that. 1, balanced meals on schedule, like legit power. Okay, 2 is hydration. You aren't sick, you're dehydrated. This is a saying I say all the darn time. You're not sick, you're dehydrated. Anytime somebody has something wrong with them, I'm like, you're probably just dehydrated. I mean, it is so powerful. And because it's so ubiquitous, right? There's like water just comes down from the sky. It's in our bathroom. Like we don't feel its power, but like it's so powerful. So I love that. I think we've talked about how important sleep is, but don't be a douche with your sleep. Like get to put yourself to bed and wake up at the right times, right? Exercise. How can we know that's what we do with dogs? We feed dogs on a schedule. We put them to bed. We walk them. We give them water. We know how to treat a dog better than we know how to treat ourselves. So it's like legit, go for walks, like get out, exercise. You need to move that body to be creative, to be energized, to feel your best, like definitely not for weight. Like this has nothing to do with it. It's everything else. And then I would say the 5th one really is joy is a nutrient. Joy is a nutrient. So what I mean by that is so many times people don't have the right routine of exercise, don't have the right routine of food, get into major ruts feel disastrous because they have no joy in their life. You say, like, what's the most fun thing you do in a day? People are like, I don't know, eat snacks after dinner. It's like, okay, there's our problem. It's joyless. And so I've actually worked very hard in my career and life to really cultivate joy because I'm by nature very serious, like very, very serious. And that was getting me nowhere fast. Burnout lane, USA. So joy as a nutrient is a huge part of my philosophy.
I love that joy piece. That I hear that word and I think of play, which for me
Ah,
is
I love that word.
like everyone's always stressed. What's the opposite of stress? Well, stress is I'm out looking for, like, pretend you're an antelope on the savannah, like you're out looking for danger. You got anxiety, like this next thing's coming. You know what isn't stressed? A kid on a park, right, playing, right. You know when you're not stressed when you're doing something that you absolutely love doing, right? And so it's so much easier to operate through life if you're enjoying it, if there's joy, if there's play. And so when people are like, "Oh, I've got really bad anxiety," blah, 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 like slow down and just like play, take your mind off like whatever that is. And then the other point about exercise and dogs, it always cracks me up when I'm like, hey, like work out in the morning. They're like, I can't do that. I'm not a morning person. I'm like, what time do you walk your dog? 5. It's like people will do for things for dogs and other people that they will not do for themselves. It's like, hey, you should put a like. Actually, I was going to go a totally different direction. I was going to say you should go for a walk the same way you take your dogs for a walk, and that's like the biggest thing I try and get people to do. I'm like, how much are you walking? They're like, oh, I'm not. It's like, oh, so the last year you've been inside your house walking 1,000 steps a day and you wonder why all of a sudden your health has gone downhill. Well, there's a huge one. Move a little bit more. And so
Yes,
love that list of
yes.
5.
Yes. Oh, well, and it came out so easily, almost practiced, right? It was like almost like, oh, I had prepared that. Definitely not prepared, but it is what I live by. Those are my do simple better when I'm assessing my own self of like, how did I do today? And it's like, did I have my meals on a schedule? Did I drink water? Did I move my body? Am I getting to sleep at a right time? And, did I have some joy? And it doesn't have to be, I think a lot of times the confusing thing about joy is that it's like, oh, it's a vacation and it's got to feel like crazy and big, and it's like joy can be just like little things, and it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. Something I started over the pandemic, which is 2 things on the list. I started jumping rope. I am a superstar jump roper, and that is exercise and play at the same time. Who knew that jump rope was like the best thing ever? It's so fun.
Yeah, jumping rope is like one of the most efficient things you can do. And to that point,
Oh,
it's like find exercise you enjoy. If you hate
amen.
CrossFit, stop doing CrossFit. If you hate, like running marathons, stop running marathons. Go find something you do. And I would say, like, if you told me to go chase a soccer ball around for 2 hours, I'd be like, oh, sweet. I ran 7 miles. Didn't even mean to, because I'm just playing. Like, I'm so focused on that.
It's
Um,
good. That's it reminds me about when I talk about let's activate your automatic motivation system. We all have an automatic motivation system, and here's how it works. You do something. If you hated it and it was miserable, it is very hard to want to go do it again. Maybe you could force yourself, but I mean, there's no automation there. It was miserable. You don't want to do it again, and so you're going to try and fight it. Instead, you do something. It's enjoyable. And without forcing yourself, naturally automated, it just occurs again because it was enjoyable. So, like, joy is not fluff. It's actually the secret of success, right? It is the tool that actually turns on your motivation system.
yeah, 100%. I love that. To your point about sports and athletes, growing up myself as an athlete, I know how much like rituals and just be like, this is what I've always done. Why would I change my schedule? I'm now a multimillionaire and you're trying to get me to eat a orange. Are you crazy, lady? Like how do you have that conversation with people that are just so performance focused and not necessarily like, oh, this is great for longevity or this is great for, like losing a little bit of weight and body composition.
Yeah. So the 10 years, I just stopped doing the job as the head dietitian for the Chicago Cubs. And in that 10 years, things really changed. The athletes really changed. So at the beginning of my stint there, it was very much like, yeah, we're not listening to you. We're going to eat our same ham sandwich. And we're going to do whatever we want to do and wash it down with whatever we want to wash it down with. And good for you. Um, as the years went on and athletes got, I think really looked around at some of their peers, like the Tom Brady's of the world, who are like, oh my gosh, nutrition does matter. It does help you perform better now and extends the longevity of what you've got going. There was less of any sort of push, and it was more like, okay, what do you got? I'm ready to listen. And so that's always how I've been. I've been a very education focused of like, okay, here's what matcha is, here's what it can do for you. And the word that I think is the most powerful that I use with them and I use with all my clients is the word test. Test. Do not believe me. I'm not a Major League Baseball player. I am not your body. I do not live your life. I have no idea. But what I can tell you is science. I can tell you professional experience, and I can give you this idea for you to test on your own terms. And if you end up liking it, if you end up noticing a difference, well, there, boom. What's the harm there? So everything I did with the athletes and everything I do with my clients is all in the spirit of testing.
Yeah. How does this make you feel?
Yes.
I remember I was running a half marathon. I had some spaghetti like 30 minutes before and had the worst stomach ache. I was like, wow, like I tested that. I will never do that again. And like little did I know that meatball was just like playing basketball inside my esophagus probably. And that's the reason why I ran into that. Diving a little bit more into the science thing with athletes. So athletes from a training standpoint will periodize their training, right? So they have preseason, postseason, in-season, off-season. Is that something that you would talk to them about from a nutritional standpoint during the season? Like, hey, like maintain your weight, like don't drop 10 pounds. And then in the off season, maybe they're trying to build back up. So you're saying like, hey, eat some more. Like dive into that a little bit if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so every sport is different with how, they manage these things, but more than that, it's exactly as you say. During the season, it's about optimization of what you're working with. Very long sports seasons like baseball can wear and tear. All the travel, all the eating on the road, all the different time zones, everything like that is wear and tear that you don't even realize when you're just like turning on a game and you're like, look at them, how cool, they get to work for 3 hours a day, in the sun and play baseball. You're like, oh my God, their lives are just all routine, such long hours, such long schedules. It's like unbelievable. So yes, you are trying to then in the off season say, okay, as much as I was trying to optimize your performance there, we're trying in the off season to just do everything we can to rebuild, repair, and make sure that you come back as strong and stronger next season. And so, yeah, everybody's going to have different goals. Like some people wear and tear on the season is weight gain. Some it's weight loss. Some they feel stronger because they're doing way more. Some feel less strong because they're doing less, like weightlifting. So it's definitely an individual thing, but by and large, during the season, you're not looking for any huge changes other than just like maintain optimal performance. And I mean, in part of that, obviously, the word recovery has to be thrown in there because that is only the most important thing. Over the past 10 years, that's the buzzword that's really like, if I say the word recovery, people are like, I'll take it, I'll do it, because it really is one of those things that's, good that it's so popular now that we understand that it's not just, you can't just push a human body and push. You've got to have an equally important repair cycle.
Yeah, you can go as hard as you can repair or recover from. I'm going to start selling recovery pillows. And in reality, it's just like, hey, go to sleep, but it's a recovery pillow. And then,
hey, that's going to sell like hotcakes.
Oh, that would sell like hotcakes. Spinning this now to general population, one of the things you said that was really interesting is like in the season, we're just trying to maintain and not have anything like really change. A lot of times you'll get people that are just dieting and they'll literally diet the entire year. And this is where with my clients and the research I've seen is like having seasons where it's like, hey, we're in a diet phase. Maybe it's time to reverse diet. Maybe it's time to just maintain. I'd love to get your perspective on that and just how important it is to spend time just like at maintenance, focusing on how you feel versus trying to have a season where it's like, hey, we're going for major body composition change.
Yep, I think you said it right there. It's everything I do is based on how you feel. You're feeling like crap, guess what? This is not for you. And people who diet too much get to a place that they feel like crap, that they can't push themselves as much in the gym, that they feel lethargic. that they feel miserable. So you're like, okay, great. This is a time for us to change. So feeling is everything with my clients and listening to what they've got going, and myself. So it's like, even though I feel like, oh, I know everything, I have read every research study. I spend hours a day reading nutrition research. And you know what? Here's the thing. You got to shake it up sometimes. Like sometimes, even if you're like, I am doing the perfect Mediterranean diet, I'm doing whatever intermittent fasting, I'm doing all these things. You got to shake it up. And test, use my word, test, and see how you feel if you do things a little differently. And so, yeah, so bottom line is you're never going to be able to, because of your lifestyle too. You change your job, seasons change, so you want different foods. Like you really should be paying attention to how you feel as the primary marker.
Yeah, and just like stress levels too. I know you got people who are in like tax, not tax. What is it? Yeah, they're accountants,
Yeah.
right? So it's tax.
Yep.
Like that's not a good time to try and do something super crazy. Like you're already like maxed in terms of like what your body and brain is asking for. Like just feel as good as you can with food, as opposed to trying to create some crazy change. I want to get your take on the last year, and maybe not the last year, just because the last year's been crazy, but more so in how nutrition can play a role in the immune system, right? And just like how important that is for overall health. Because I don't know this, I've heard several times that like your cells are changing like I think it was 7 years, whatever. And your cells is literally what you eat. Like this right here was a sandwich 9 years ago, or it's 9 months ago. How important is nutrition for immune health, for protecting us against like getting sick, not even just COVID, but just like not feeling good?
Yeah, so many things I can say there. One, yes, the most powerful thing that you can do is you can take a piece of food and put it inside. You're literally putting it inside of your human body. You're chewing it up. It gets broken into small pieces and it literally gets absorbed into your bloodstream and starts washing over your cells. Every time I eat and make a decision, I think like, oh my gosh, like this is breaking down and literally gonna go into my blood and gonna wash over all my cells and create all my cells. And so it doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it does mean that I feel ultimate responsibility as a caretaker for these cells. And so every time I do something well, I feel my cells like cheering, like, yeah, girl, like you go, Kale. Like I am responsible for this beautiful, intricate, just amazing human machine. Like I am in charge of it. I take very good care of my things, right? Like my car, I make sure I get it detailed and cleaned. And like, I care about what my condo looks like. My human body is the most precious possession I am in charge of. So yes, putting food inside of your human body is powerful. Yes, everything you eat becomes every cell of your body. Where do your cells come from? What is the raw material in which they are built from? It's not magic. It's not from thin air. Your cells are created 100% from the raw material, food, nutrition that you eat. So it's like, okay, yeah, skin feels bad, joints feel crappy, can't sleep, feel bad energy. It's like, boom, boom, boom. What are you putting in your body? this is what that is. So it's very powerful. One of the things that I have really, I'm not going to use the word enjoyed, but one of the things that I think has been interesting coming out of a global pandemic is the respect that food is not just about, are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? I mean, it was like almost like that's all people, even when I was at the Cubs, about 5 of the first years, I had to do so many seminars of like, my job is not just changing body fat. That is literally I don't even care about that. That is not even something I care about. Is my job is all about making sure that you're putting the right stuff in so you don't get injured, you can play well, that your body gets to its perfect weight automatically without freaking out and focusing on it. Like really and truly, the pandemic, I think, opened people's eyes to this magic that food is. Food is magic. It can enhance your immunity. And it does it in many different ways. And one way is when you're eating all of these, especially plant-based foods, your gut, your microbiome, your gut houses so much of your immunity that it enables us to fight off all the predators and the bugs and the germs. So it's really it's been a very good thing that people are starting to respect food even more for that, as opposed to just focusing on aesthetics.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that you transitioned into the gut, because that's actually going to be my next question, and just how integral of a role it plays, not only just with the brain and with mental health, but how unique those are. And same way, like recovery's become huge in the last 10 years. I feel like gluten-free, dairy-free, like all these things have become more prevalent as we've gotten more research on just how diverse everybody's gut is. Can you talk a little bit about that and
Yeah.
how it's so different, and then how that's going to go and affect how you're feeling neurologically?
Yeah. So two things. One, I don't care what your food is free from, right? I care what is in your food. Like anytime I'm having a client, they're like, oh, "You'd be so proud of me. I got this gluten-free crackers or whatever." I'm like, dude, I do not care what it doesn't have in there. What does it have in there? Look at the ingredients. And half the time, all this plant-based garbage that people are eating, like, are you kidding? It's garbage. Oh my gosh, I just saw a label of something marketed as plant-based ranch. Okay, I love ranch dressing. And there are good ranch dressings on the market that are made from avocado oil or olive oil. Great. This is plant-based ranch made from vegetable oil, all these isolates, all gums, artificial colors, artificial flavors. So people are like, "Oh, I'm eating plant-based, blah, blah, blah." Do not go for these marketing terms, right? Like all that stuff is just nonsense. You always look at the ingredient list. Like that's how you know, don't be fooled. So that's the first thing I will say about that. But the second thing, the most powerful research I've read in the last maybe year is who has the healthiest guts? Who has the healthiest guts? Who has the healthiest guts? And you know who they are? They're people with a very diverse, varied diet of plants. So this particular study that I'm talking about says that if you have 30 different types of plants in your diet each week, you have a better, stronger, more diverse gut than somebody who's only eating about 10 different types of plant foods during the week. So what I created is for myself and for clients, I have it on Instagram too, is basically I listed all sorts of plants on here. And I was like, get your 30 a week, check them off, see if you're coming close so that you can start seeing like how diverse is my diet. Because if I can get those 30 different types of plant foods in my diet, my gut is going to be fueled in all different ways, and all different types of good bacteria are going to be able to grow if I have that varied diet. So I love that because I love the idea of variety anyway, and to have actual proof of that, it was a great study.
I love that. The Eat the Rainbow is one that I've heard, where it's just like when you look at your plate, there's got a bunch of colors, but now it's like, now I got a number where I'm going to look in my fridge,
Yep.
literally right after this podcast. I'll be like, oh, 11. Hey, we got to go get
Yep.
some more. We got to go get some more plants.
Yep, plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains. Looking at all that. Olive is a plant, avocados are a plant. Every kind of seed. So all of that counts. Toward the 30.
So one of the things I really empathize with people who are not in, like, they're trying to figure out the fitness and nutrition space, and I try and draw a lot of analogies. So I just like, in the future, we'll be looking to get a house, right? I don't really know that landscape. And if social media for real estate was like it is for health and fitness and nutrition, I would be like, oh, I need a wood house. Oh no, I need a stone house. Oh no, I need a house on a hill. I need a house in a lake. There's so much conflicting information. The reason why I'm coming at this is you mentioned marketing, right? Your client goes to Whole Foods. Whole Foods is supposed to be healthy. I created a post a couple of weeks ago where I was like, hey, organic Annie's Cheeto Puff chips. I don't care if it's paleo. Like it's organic Cheeto Puff chips. I'm sorry, like organic jalapeno farmer owned ranch. Like it can be grass fed jalapenos. It doesn't matter. Jalapenos don't eat grass. How can people, maybe is a better question, start to navigate good marketing of bad products?
Oh, it is. It's very, I agree. I love your analogy of it is confusing. And it's like the wild, wild west. It's like, how do you know who to believe? And that's why I say you do the ingredient list. That's the first most important thing. So that if you're like, is this fake meat product that all of my friends are eating and feeling so proud of actually food? And it's like you start reading the ingredients and you're like, oh, none of these things sound like food. So no, like this is not a healthy food, even though everyone around you believes it is. So I think the ingredient list, and the idea again is that an acronym of CRAP is like, you don't have to know that much. Is it a chemical you don't recognize? Well, maybe it's just vitamin C, who knows? But still, that should be a tip off, right? Is it BHT? Do you know? Have you ever grown BHT? Do you know what BHT is? It's like, no, that's a preservative. Ding, 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 ding. What is this number 4? Is like, I don't think number 4 is a food. Like, that is artificial. So you don't have to have a degree to learn that some of these things are tip-offs, that this is a processed food, and you can do better. That's the thing. And there are many companies who are starting to put out better for you condiments and better for you food. And it's hard to find them because of all the marketing hoopla on the front of packages. So yeah, it is going to take you a little bit of time to, sort out which one of these ranches really is the one with the best oil in there or whatever. But once you figure it out, then you can, then you're done and you know how to buy it from next time.
Yeah. And kind of a spin-off of you're the boss and taking ownership of your decisions is like, you're the CEO of your body. Like, imagine a CEO being like, oh, I wonder what parts our supply chain team took in this month. Who knows? Like, I'm sure it was good. Like, I wonder what the sales team's doing. I'm sure they're trying hard. It's like, people want people to do it for them, but you do have to take some ownership. Like, all right, I'm going to go and learn a little bit so I can empower myself. And then I think, to your point too, where all my friends are eating this, well, there's always going to be the layer of genetics, right? And just like what people have done. Like, you might see someone who for the last year has been having these Cheeto Puffs. It's like, well, they look like that, but it's like, well, for 25 years they've been on a completely different diet. They've been working out as a college athlete or something. And so I think the whole point of what you've talked about is test and just the individuality, and stop trying to say this worked for someone, so it'll work for me. That's like being like, oh, you're dating someone, I need their exact characteristics. I need blonde hair, 5'9". I need, green eye, like all these things. Like, no, everything is unique. What is it? 7 billion, 8 billion people, all different
Yeah.
guts, all different brains,
It,
all different body compositions.
Yeah, it really is true that, although all of these sort of principles and pillars are important for everybody, it is one of those things where the details you do need to test. And I love how you said sort of like taking that ownership of, knowing what's in there. And especially, and because it is one of those things where everybody has an opinion about nutrition, everybody does, is, to start formulating, what makes sense and what feels good to you. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit as we wrap up and get to know you a little bit more outside of nutrition. So I got 3 questions that I like to ask that are kind of fun. So you just finish a really hard workout, really tough workout, sweaty, sore, tired, and you're like, man, I want to have this food. And it can be healthy, not healthy. Like, what is like your go-to, like, oh, I love this food all time?
That's interesting. Well, so I mean, I'm gonna answer like a nerd if you want.
Yeah.
Literally, the first thing that I mean, maybe it's because I train my body, whatever. I am obsessed with electrolytes, like literally obsessed. Before a workout, during a workout, but like after workout, I literally hear my cells being like, "Mama, please give us some electrolytes." So I really am mostly drawn to electrolytes, and I'm one of those people where many times, like after an intense jump rope routine or after an intense HIIT class, those are my 2 like favorite things. I have less of an appetite, so I am drawn very much to smoothies. Because it's one of those things where I know I would like some recovery nutrition, but I'm not feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to eat so much. Most of the time, exercise is an appetite suppressant. It decreases your appetite. And if people are really hungry after a workout, like super starved, oftentimes that can be a sneaking tip off that they're actually dehydrated. So oftentimes that's what I'll do with people and clients and say, hey, wait a second, should you really be that hungry? Maybe there's some dehydration here. And an easy way to figure out dehydration is to weigh yourself before and after a workout. You should lose 0 weight, no weight.
That's super interesting because or I'm like, all right, I finish a workout or have like a big long game, like, bam, I want, Chipotle, or I want like some food. And to your point, it's the dehydration point or piece is really interesting, but you just finished a workout. You're in your sympathetic nervous system. You shouldn't want to go and then like fill up your stomach with a bunch of stuff that it needs to digest, because that's an opposite part of the nervous system. So I'm actually really glad I answered that question and you gave me some facts on it rather than just some random like pizza shop in Chicago, which is yeah,
Well, yeah,
really good food there
if
as
you
well.
want my favorite food, like not timed right after a workout, if you want my favorite food, hell yeah, it's gonna be pizza. But I always put a salad with it because
Yeah.
I am a big believer in that balance. I really love to feel like I'm doing right by my cells, but I also love to feel satisfied. Like I love the feeling of both.
So I love Chicago. I've been there a few times. I spent a summer not in Chicago, but it was Springfield, Illinois, playing summer ball. And so
Oh,
we would
cool.
go up to Chicago a bunch. My dad used to work there. Next time I go, what's a restaurant I need to go to?
Oh, well, here's the big thing. Maybe this is gonna sound like I'm kind of a snob. Maybe I don't know, but I live in West Loop, okay, and I belong to this club. It's like an urban country club, basically. It's called Soho House. And that is my favorite. I love it there. So if you came, I would force you to come with me to go to Soho House, where we would have a little cocktail and a little lunch by the pool. That would be my absolute favorite thing. But if you were out and about and coming, there's two restaurants I love. Right, I live what's called Restaurant Row in West Loop, Chicago, and one's called Avec. It's and both of these are Mediterranean-esque, and the other is Abba, and they both are very Mediterranean based, but just the most delicious food. I mean, so delicious. So they're not pizza places. You can find good pizza a lot of places, but those are like my favorite, like good yum food.
Cool. Awesome. Love that. I will definitely be checking those out. Next question. You get one song, and it's like the song that gets you the most pumped up to do a workout, to get some work done, to just like dance, whatever it is. Like, what is your all-time song?
Okay, this I'm also going to be telltale on myself like a nerd. Okay, I don't know that much about songs all the time, right? I don't really, it's like, I don't know. Here's what I do know. If I go to top 10, anything that is pop 10, I am going to freaking love it. I am going to love it. I'm going to want to just jump rope to it all day. So I have a real issue of being a pop 10 obsessed person. But I do love of all time, if I really had to pick a song, I love Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
That's a great one.
I do love that song, but really, I mean, honestly, I just get me anything pop 10 and I'm into it.
I mean, Bieber's had some good hits recently.
Yes,
I've been
please.
all about that. Bieber, Taylor, Bruno, anyone,
Yeah.
Beyonce, right? Anyone with?
Actually, you know what? My jump rope song right now is Levitate. I love that song. Have
Oh
you been
yeah,
hearing that?
Dua
Have you been
Lipa.
doing that? Yeah. So I've been doing that one a lot. Yeah, so I'm looking at my jump rope playlist right now. But yeah, that one's probably the most hits on it right now is the levitating.
Okay, cool. Last last question. You get to sit down, have dinner. It's a nice, nutritious dinner. The body, the cells, they're all super excited about it. But it's someone alive, not alive, fictional, non-fictional. You can sit down, have dinner with anyone. Who would that be?
Oh, I love this question. And I change my answer sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling. But I'll tell you what, I really respect Lady Gaga. I
I think that's
really
cool.
respect Gaga. And the reason being is because she really is a very savvy business person and she builds a community. She knows how to build a community, right? People are like they're little monsters of Lady Gaga. Like she really is somebody. Sometimes I will say Madonna because I love how many times she's reinvented herself. I've been in this business for a long time. And I always think, oh my gosh, maybe my best years are behind me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hell no, I'm Madonna. I will recreate myself and I will be back. I will rise like a phoenix. So sometimes I pick her too. Sometimes I pick Michelle Obama because she's just going to tell it to you real. Anything I needed the truth on, I feel like she would give me the facts, man. So, anyways, I answer a lot of different ways, but today I'm going Gaga.
Yeah, no, I actually really like Gaga because one, I remember going to a concert and it's just like this is so like flamboyant, so much energy, right? And I got a lot of energy, so that makes sense. You guys are definitely vibe and obviously have a good conversation. But to your point, the reinvention of she was this type of artist, then she goes and what was that movie she did with Bradley Cooper?
Oh, yeah, Stars
Stars Born,
Born.
Stars Born, yeah. And it's really hard for celebrities to do that. I think it's harder even for women. So like I think it's more impressive when someone like a Gaga, Taylor Swift even is another example where it's like she was
Oh, yeah.
country, then she was pop, and then now she's this and that. I think that's really cool when people are able to do that, but still like at the core, be true to like who they are. I think she's done a really good job with
Amen.
that.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
Cool, cool. DJ Don, where can people find you on social media, website? And then I know that people can definitely find you May 10th when you do the live cooking class, which I'm super excited about. When you said chickpea cookie dough, I was like, I love chickpeas, love cookie dough. Let's see this magic happen.
Yes. Well, okay. So all social media is at DJ Blatner. Okay. My website is also djblatner.com. And I cannot wait. I think it is amazing that you have built this awesome community and that you're always elevating your game of like how you can deliver more to them. Like when you reached out and said, you know what, hey, we've been doing these and I want to do even more and bigger and better and always pushing yourself to do that. I think it's awesome. So I cannot wait for that. We're going to be making, that chickpea cookie dough is one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah, super excited. It's I kind of got the idea. My girlfriend, obviously everyone's been working from home. She's like, yeah, we're having uh, a team happy hour and we're having someone like a cocktail person come in and do cocktails. I was like, oh, it's kind of a good idea. Let's do that food wise. So super excited. I'm pumped. Shout out to Brett. Thanks for connecting us, and
Thank you.
hopefully make
Yeah.
it out to Chicago soon. See those guys, see you, and connect. But we'll definitely see you again on in May. So thank you so much for the time. I love this. This is like the fastest hour ever, and hope you have an awesome, awesome weekend.
Thank you. Bye. Mwah.
All right, before I let you guys go, just want to say thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Subscribe if this podcast is your vibe. And then, of course, head to downdogathletics.com to learn more about the 8-week challenge, about coaching. And if you join the challenge, you'll be able to join the cooking class live with Don. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time on the Mindful Muscle podcast. Have an awesome, awesome day.